Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Seth. I got a fun video today, and I want to talk about dividend ETFs. And I specifically want to talk about what I'm investing in and what my plans are for investing in dividend ETFs, what I don't plan on investing in, and maybe this can give you just a little bit of insight, maybe spark some ideas in your brain on what to do with your portfolio. Again, not financial advice. But it is for entertainment purposes. But still, if you can be motivated after watching this, that's the goal, right? Go off, save, invest, boom, get it going. But what I want to show you is my portfolio and what dividend ETFs I invest in. Probably no surprise here, SCHD, and I do have DGRO, and I'm going to show you why. And it'll also show you a little bit about how my brain works. When I look at things like this. But anyway, I have SCHD at $20,000. DGRO, I'm going to try to build that to $20,000 as well. Get these equally weighted at 50%. That's why you can see here my allocation to DGRO is 99%. And SCHD right now, I'm just letting it sit, collecting these dividends. And it's going good. For those of you who are new, I also have individual holdings. I have about 20 of them or so. And I buy them as I please, just as, what I think is a good value. I do put a lot of money into Microsoft, Visa, Apple, MasterCard, and Costco. These are the two positions that I really am building up right now. So yeah, that's just a little bit of that. But I want to dive into some dividend ETFs. And the three dividend ETFs that I'm going to talk about, let me bring them up right here, are SCHD, DGRO, and VYM. Now, what I did was I took screenshots of the top 10 holdings in these portfolios. And what I want to show you is my thinking on how I chose SCHD and DGRO. Later, I'll pull up Portfolio Visualizer and maybe we can start looking at some total returns and what that looks like. But right now, we're just talking about the top holdings of these ETFs. So first, the first thing we want to look at is overlap. So right now we're just going to be talking about SCHD here and DGRO. So let's take a look at overlap. So if we're looking at the holdings within SCHD and DGRO, let's go down the list of DGRO and compare them to SCHD. So we won't get too much into VYM right now. Now DGRO, the top holding is JP Morgan. SCHD does not hold JP Morgan in the top 10. And also another thing about SCHD, the top 10 make up almost 50% of SCHD, right? So a big allocation is put into SCHD here, right? I think it's at 40% or so. So JP Morgan is not in SCHD. Microsoft right here is not a top 10 holding of SCHD. Now we have Johnson & Johnson. That is not a top 10 holding of SCHD, right? So we're getting great diversification. Now the first one we get to is AbbVie. AbbVie makes up 2.79% of DGRO, and it makes up 4.4% of SCHD. It's SCHD's largest holding. ExxonMobil, no overlap. Broadcom, there's some overlap, so we'll cross that off here. Hopefully this is a good visual, you guys can visualize this. Hopefully it's good. Apple, there's no overlap with SCHD. Chevron, we do have some overlap here. And we have no overlap with Procter & Gamble, but we do have some overlap with Home Depot. So you can see the overlap is pretty darn good. And these are just the top 10 holdings, right? They don't have a lot in common. Now, let's pretend that we were to add VYM into this mix, right? You're saying, hey, I want more diversification. Now, this is probably a good example of diversification, as what they call it. So let's compare VYM to SCHD and DGRO. Now, check this out. JP Morgan, we'll cross that off because JP Morgan is shared with DGRO. ExxonMobil is shared with DGRO. So we'll cross that off. Broadcom, that's shared with both SCHD and DGRO. Already crossed that off. Johnson & Johnson, that is shared with DGRO. Procter & Gamble, that is shared with DGRO. The Home Depot, that's shared with DGRO. MRK, that is shared with SCHD. AbbVie, that is shared with DGRO and SCHD. Chevron is shared with DGRO and SCHD. Pepsi, and Pepsi is alone. So you can see VYM has pretty much all in the top 10 of VYM, it's overlapped with SCHD or DGRO. So if you're like, man, I have SCHD, I have DGRO, I want to add another dividend ETF. Well, that might not be the best case. And the reason why is, guys, is there's only so many great dividend stocks, right? There's only so many good ones. And adding another dividend ETF to SCHD and DGRO might not be the way to go, right? Maybe a better way to go would be to add, let me just get rid of some of this here. Another good way to go would potentially be to add something like VTI or VOO. Let's go to VOO Holdings. Let's search this up real quick. I'm kind of going off the cuff here. I didn't plan on doing this, but just stick with me, guys. I'm going to pull up the portfolio for VOO, and we're going to compare them real quick. So let's scroll down right here, and let's take a look at the top holdings. I'm just going to screenshot this. Boom. Let's minimize this. Let's just pull this up right now. Boom. Okay, so this is VOO. So let's see here. We have overlap with Microsoft and Apple within DGRO, so we can cross that off here. We have Microsoft and we have Apple on the top holdings. Okay, so let's cross this off, Microsoft, Apple. Now, between these, Amazon is not shared, Nvidia is not shared, Alphabet is not shared with SCHD or DGRO, Meta, Alphabet, Class C, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, UNH. None of these top 10 holdings are included within DGRO and SCHD. So adding a stabilizer such as VOO is probably a good play, and that's a move that I plan on making here in the future. I do plan on adding, VOO or potentially VTI, and as JL Collins says, VTI and chill. But this is how I'm thinking about constructing my portfolio, right? As I'm getting more money into this portfolio, I'm really starting to really think like, oh wow, I'm getting a lot of money into this, and I would like to diversify even more, and it can't hurt having a bit of the market, VOO in your portfolio. You really can't go wrong with doing that. And VOO, guys, it's still a dividend holding, right? You have a 1.45% dividend yield, and in the last 10 years, a 7% dividend growth rate. So you're still getting dividends from VOO. For those of you dividend heads out there, you're still going to get quarterly dividends come in. Now, another thing that I wanted to show, and you guys probably already know this, but that's okay. Let's just talk about it. We're going to look at the total returns of of SCHD, DGRO, and VYM. We're going to compare them. We're going to set them each at 100%. We're going to analyze these portfolios. Since 2015, you can see here, VYM has the lowest total return at 8.93% between SCHD and DGRO. So I'm heavily invested in SCHD and DGRO right now, guys. And I, plan on potentially adding VOO into this portfolio sometime soon. I hope you guys found, maybe some insight into this as to how you build your portfolios. But this is how I went about building mine. And I really hope you guys, got some good insight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Today's kind of a shorter video, only 9 minutes. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.